All right, today we're going to be talking about Cisco Flex 3.0. This update is a very massive change in the world of licensing for collaboration. So I'm going to walk you through a few different items, how they're going to impact everybody on this call. And if you don't think that it's going to impact you, please let me know at the end of the webinar, but it's going to impact everybody. So first we're going to go over what is Cisco Flex. I have an important announcement, and then we're going to go over the specifics of two of the options, the calling tier and the meetings tier. So what is Flex? Cisco Flex, it is Cisco's subscription model for licensing, for collaboration. Today we're going to talk about Flex for calling. We're also going to talk about Flex for meetings. And there is a Flex for contact center, but that's not in scope for today's call. But what Flex does is it replaces your perpetual SKUs, your perpetual licenses on your call manager and various other applications. And it moves it from buying that one-time SKU with annual maintenance to a subscription model. And the Flex 3.0 plan that we're talking about today is truly version 3. It was announced last month. It is definitely the most competitive, aggressive, and value-priced, value-packed package in the industry. There's nobody out there that can touch this. So with Flex 3.0 comes a surprise announcement. And this is where I'm telling everybody that this is going to impact you directly. So SWSS, this is software support services. That is the maintenance that you would pay on a perpetual SKU. They've all been officially announced end of life. So with the launch of Cisco Flex 3.0, Communications Manager, Emergency Responder, and Expressway are the first to be announced end of life. The future ones that are going to be coming are Contact Center Express and Contact Center Enterprise. All your BE6K SKUs, if you're a customer that has a BE6K SKU. Unity Connection, which is voicemailing, and CMS, which is Cisco's on-premise bridge. Now, none of these products are going away. It's just the license model moving from a perpetual one-time purchase with annual maintenance to a subscription model. So you might be saying, well, what's the timeline here? So Flex went live in our system, able to be ordered in September 23rd this year. With that, the official end-of-life notices for Call Manager and the SWSS, that also applies to the Emergency Responder and Expressway licensing, has happened, right? It's been announced. You can Google it, just to CUCM, perpetual EOL, it's there. If you'd like some links, we can certainly send them out after the fact as well. And with this, there's also the concept of what was called a SWSS reinstatement. And what a SWSS reinstatement was, is a lot of customers bought the perpetual SKUs. They may have bought them from multiple different solution providers like SMP, or maybe they had a ton of different contracts and they just didn't keep them all up to date. So if you're one of those people who didn't keep them all up to date, or some things fell through the cracks, you're no longer able to reinstate that support, meaning your support wasn't maintained and now you're trying to get support. It's not going to be possible anymore. Now the next one is January 23rd, 2021. And this is truly a hard date. This is published data. That's the last time that you are able to purchase a Call Manager perpetual SKU. So if you have a 10, 11, or 12 version of Call Manager and you're running perpetual licenses, buy all the license that you need by January 23rd, 2021, because you will not be able to buy any after that. Now the Flex plan is aggressively priced, like I said. So the recommendation would be to go with a Flex plan, and we can talk about that in a moment as well. But the one thing you should also be aware of on this date, it's your last day to purchase multi-year SWSS. So if you're one of those people who like to buy 3 or 5 year SWSS, it's the last time you can do it. And also with that, the BE6K perpetual SKUs will be announced end of life as well. Now, jumping forward a few months, the BE6K SKUs will be announced, or at that point we'll already have an end of life announcement against it. You will no longer be able to purchase after January or July 24th, 2021. So if you're a Call Manager customer, which most people are, your date's January 23rd. If you run BE6Ks, and I'm not talking about the appliance, the hardware appliance, you got to look at your license SKU. So you'll be seeing those SKUs that are like R-CE BE6K-K9. That is BE6K SKUs. If you're curious, if you're one of those customers, please reach out to us. We will be reaching out to you as well, so you're aware. Now, on January 29th, 2022, which is right around the corner, realistically, that's your last day to purchase renewals for your SWSS, for Call Manager and the BE6K. Cisco is limiting it maximum to 1 year. And then on the January 27th, 2024, that's the last day of support through SWSS in general for the Communication Manager, Expressway, Emergency Responder, and BE6K. So if you need multi-year support, your last day to buy that multi-year support is January 23rd next year. Your last day to buy perpetual licenses is January 23rd next year, right? So this will impact everybody on this call. But you might be saying, well, that seems harsh. You know, I'm not ready for a subscription model. And I understand that. But I'll tell you, the pricing on this is incredibly generous and very, very aggressive if you're on-prem or in the cloud. Huge price cuts across the board. It'll make it a lot easier for you, especially if you're one who has a very large SWSS quote every year. You're going to be very happy with the Flex plan. The other thing it allows you to do is have a better cash flow. So monthly and annual billing options. We recommend annual or prepaid because that's just a lot easier to transact for everybody on the phone. And then you're also going to get some things that are included. SRST is included for everybody in your company. Emergency Responder included for everybody in your company. So as we're talking about Kerry's Law and Raybaum's Act, Emergency Responder is one of the fundamental products that you need to have in your system. So if you're running a version 10 or 11 or 12 and you do an upgrade, legally you have to be compliant with Kerry's Law. And then there's Raybaum's Act coming down the road as well. So one of the foundational steps is getting Emergency Responder deployed. If you're a multi-vendor shop out there and you have multiple PBXs or you have multiple access layer switch vendors, then we can also talk about Red Sky, but that's not included in this Flex plan. I just wanted to let you know. The other thing that makes it really nice is it gives you an easy way to migrate to the cloud over time. So if you're a person who is perpetual and a premise-based system right now and you're looking to migrate to the cloud, Flex is the way to do that. You start on-prem and you can keep changing licenses and migrate to the cloud at your leisure. And Cisco also has the ability to trunk from their premise offering to their cloud offerings, whether it's UCM Cloud or WebEx calling. So you can take advantage of that. Start your install base, move to the cloud at your leisure. And then you're also with Flex 3.0. If you ever got a Flex 2.0 quote from us, we always told you one thing. There is no multi-year price break. With Flex 3.0, there is. And there's even a calling and meeting pack, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But why this is important to you is it really gives you incentive to move to a 3 or 5 year EA or a named user agreement. You get a dramatic price cut when you do that. And on top of that, you're also getting a ton more licenses, a ton more capability. If you're looking at your call manager today and you're like, well, gee, I wonder how this maps, what the different tiers are, this is what it looks like. So if you have a cool standard licenses or UCL Enhanced Plus, you get a professional license. UCL Enhanced, you go to Enhanced, and then UCL Essential and Basic go to what's called the Access tier. Now, if you're on a Flex 2.0 plan, don't worry about it. There's no end of life on that. You're good to go. And when it's time for your renewal, we'll position a Flex 3.0 quote for you. So there's nothing for you to have to think about there. But if you have SWSS today and you're saying, Dan, I have support, I can manage and update, but I do like what Flex 3.0 is going to give me. I'm not okay with losing the ability to add users in January next year, but I paid that SWSS. I've kept it current. There's what's called time-bound SWSS residual. And what that means in a nutshell, we take the value of the SWSS that you haven't utilized yet in your contract, whether it's 2 months or whatever it is, and it gets boiled down to the first 18 months of your plan. So the first 18 months could be discounted, and that's a maximum up to 18 months. But we will work through that with you. So don't worry about that one. If there's SWSS that hasn't been utilized, meaning you have additional months available in your plan, but you're upgrading to Flex, you will get credit for that. All right. So now let's get into the actual content of what Flex actually gives you. So how you actually purchase this, there's two options: named user or enterprise agreement. Enterprise agreement is for 250 users and up. Named user is for 249 or below. And honestly, you could get named user above 249, but the pricing starts to get very attractive for EAs. And there's a lot of benefit on the enterprise agreement too. So who will want named user? Individuals, teams, and departments. So if you're not looking to roll it out to the entire company, or you have another vendor out there right now that you're looking to displace over time, but you're not ready to commit to that just yet, named user is perfect for you. If you're trying to license everybody in your company, enterprise agreement is the way to do that. And as you grow, you can move from named user to enterprise agreements. So let's take a look at the tiers. So access tier. These are your analog and basic devices. And this is specific to named user. So the 250 or less mark, or 249 or less, I would say. So analog and basic device needs. That's an analog device like a fax machine, or like a 6901 or 7811, 7821, those phones. Enhanced licenses, those map to enhanced UCL licenses. They're built for what's called task workers. So on the Flex 2.0 plan, it was focused exclusively around knowledge workers, and it didn't stretch to a lot of people's overall model, right? So enhanced is built for a task worker, meaning a person who has a single device, a voicemail, or a common area device. Professional is for your knowledge worker, right? So this is a cool standard license. And then if you need to have that knowledge worker, that professional level license, and you need WebEx on top of it, there's a single SKU that can provide you both of those things. And it discounts on top of the other discounts that we're talking about, because you're buying two things at once. It's WebEx meetings and calling, right? So here's an overview. You can look at this in a little while, but again, access and enhanced are single devices. Professional and the calling pack, they're multiple. And WebEx calling allows up to 5 devices per user if you're in the professional or meetings, and Call Manager allows 10. Right. So as we're looking at these different tiers, UCM, Call Manager, on-premise, and in the cloud follow this model perfectly. WebEx calling it does not have an access tier. It only has enhanced, professional, and the calling and meeting pack, right? Oh, and the other thing I wanted to make mention of is, let me just go back to that real quick. An enhanced license, voicemail is optional, whereas professional, it comes included. So this allows you to simplify a lot of different things. You don't have to worry about tiers of licenses. You get a specific bundle, which allows for very good discounting. You get an additional discount. You get calling simplification. You get growth allowance. So if you buy an enterprise agreement, you get 20% growth. And let's look at the enterprise agreement specifically. So if we have 250 users, you're going to get half of that as far as an enhanced license, right? So this means that I have 250 knowledge workers, and I'm going to get 125 common area devices effectively. On top of that, you also get 20% for what's called access licensing. So that, again, is your UCL Essential and UCL Basic, commonly tied to lower level phones in a lobby, in a conference room, or even like a fax machine. On top of that, you're going to get 100% mapping to cloud registered video devices. So like a RoomKit, any of those devices, you get a 1-to-1 match with an enterprise agreement. So if you have 250 knowledge workers, you're going to get 250 cloud registered licenses. If you're on premise, you get 20%, which is dramatically, it's double what we had before on the Flex. On top of that, you get the Pro Pack. So that Pro Pack is the one that allows your WebEx teams to have all the advanced analytics and control for security. And then if you get the EA meetings or the EA calling plus the meetings, you also get what's called Meeting Suite, which is not just WebEx meetings, but it gives you Event Center, Support Center, and Training Center. It's all the 1,000 level tiers, so 1,000 users. And the other things we can add on voicemail. We couldn't do that before. We can add on additional licenses a la carte. The EA is the way to go. So let's just compare the named user versus the knowledge worker on an enterprise agreement. So if you have a professional level license and you're on named user, you're going to get that license. You'll get that on EA as well. But the EA, again, offers the 20% growth. So if you have 250 knowledge workers, you're going to get 300 licenses because Cisco gives you 50 licenses in that scenario, 20% of your knowledge worker count. And then if you are on premise, you also get things like the access level licenses, the Expressway rich media session license for traversal, video registration for on premise, as well as session manager. And we're going to have all that stuff just pre-populated in your smart account without the need for us to go to Cisco Global Licensing. Here's a couple examples of add-ons. So voicemail, device registration, to name a few, for our people who are in WebEx calling. The enterprise to multi-platform firmware, so the operating system that these phones work, you can add those additional licenses. Cube licenses for local gateway that's specific to WebEx calling only. So Cube licensing is not in the Flex plan. The exception is for WebEx calling, and that is specifically used for that gateway to communicate with the WebEx calling cloud. That's what that's for. And there's also add-ons for UCM Cloud, like Virtual Connect, Fiber Connect, MPLS, and the UCM Cloud Enterprise Service. Now, I know there's a lot on that slide, and we can certainly go over that and double click. We only have a half hour to talk about that. So what I wanted to talk next about was Flex meetings. So we talked about calling before. There was a named user option and enterprise agreement option. The same is true with cloud meetings. So the meetings named user tier is really for a customer who's trying to, piecemeal their solution. They don't have a lot of people who are looking to do like meetings right now, keeping it bare minimum. Right now, the active user option that we have in Flex 2 is not out. That is coming out in the future. I just want to make that mention because our next version is going to be hopping into the EA. So now the meeting suite is WebEx meetings, like the tier that we just mentioned previously, but it also adds on Event Center, Support Center, and Training Center. The minimum is 15 users for that. And then for the enterprise agreement, that's licensing everybody in your company. And again, that calling and meeting pack option is there as well. Now you can mix and match enterprise agreement and named user between the two different deployment models that we're talking about. So you can have an enterprise agreement for your calling and named user for your meetings, or an enterprise agreement for your meetings and a named user for your calling. That's completely legal. So just wanted to throw that one out there. When you look and cross compare the two of them, I know this is an eye chart. Don't worry about it. I will walk you through it on a future call. Right? So you have the named user tier. You have the named user suite. That's the meeting suite. That's when you get all the different centers, the meeting center, support center, event center, training center. And then you have the enterprise agreement, which is licensing everybody. This is what you get. So again, just keep in mind that your storage is pretty much the same. It goes up a little bit, but you can see that there's some additional options. Now, when we look at not just the meetings itself, but the audio around that, the audio is consistent regardless of which model that you actually go through. So everything about audio is the same on named user all the way through to the enterprise agreement. And there's also add-ons. So we can do standalone purchases for people who need just WebEx Teams. There's one for Jabber, as well as the extended security pack. So the extended security pack is kind of one of those things that a lot of people don't know about. So why you would care is if you are deploying WebEx Teams, Extended Security Pack will give you Cloud Lock licensing for your enterprise just for WebEx Teams at a discounted price. It will also allow anti-malware and the CLAM AV scanning every time that you send a file or receive a file. It will scan it as you're sending it and scanning it as you receive it. If it notices that there's an issue, it will kick it out immediately. And again, Cloud Lock is a CASB, so it's a Cloud Access Security Broker. It's also a DLP, right? So data loss prevention is built right in. That is an option as well. Not included with anything by default, but it's there at a very good discounted price versus looking at having that option for everything out there in your enterprise. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about one more thing. You might be thinking, Dan, that timeline is aggressive. I know you're saying pricing is very aggressive. I need you to prove it to me, and I will. I don't have pricing on this call specifically because it needs to be specific for you, right? In your enterprise, we talk about your Swiss prices and your call manager install or whatever install you're looking at, and you should know that we will go through every single one of yours. Just reach out to your account manager and we'll take care of that. But the one more thing is right here. So next version of Communication Manager is Communication Manager 14. We just had a very large shift moving from perpetual to subscription-based exclusively. So everybody moving forward is going to use the Flex plan. But Cisco's also heard, the market is difficult right now. We don't have money just laying around. We're in a survive mode right now, right? Making sure that you're in business. Communication Manager 14 deprecated a lot of phones, meaning phones, if you were to upgrade to version 14, which is coming out very soon, those phones, if they were a deprecated phone, would not register to the call manager. And for some customers, that was a very painful thing. So what I wanted to let you know is that deprecation has been canceled. So here's a copy of the top of the Communication Manager 14 release. I'm not going to read it to you. Just use your favorite search engine and search CUCM 14 deprecation notice, and this will pull right up. Now, the phones that have been deprecated previously in version 11 and version 12 still remain deprecated, but there's a deference right now. So version 14 is not going to deprecate any phones. This is one way you can keep money in your pocket, but still upgrade and get ready for that Flex plan. The pricing is very aggressive, so don't worry about the fact that we're moving from perpetual to a subscription. It's actually going to benefit your company in both in features and cost over time by moving to the Flex 3.0 plan. And then one thing I wanted to let you know of too, and specifically I'm going to focus on WebEx calling here because that's kind of my thing. We built off the Flex plan a couple bundles. So if you're a K-12, you're going to pay $25 per user per month, and then commercials $27 per user per month. And this is for WebEx calling exclusively. But the thing about this is included in that number is not only your Cisco licensing, but also includes licensing for Red Sky emergency E911, which gets you compliant to both Kerry's Law and the Ray-Bombs Act, both the first and second dates. If you need to know more about that, please reach out to me. It also includes PSTN services from IntelliPeer. It also includes WebEx meetings for the K-12 people. That's not true for commercial. I just want to make that available. So WebEx meetings come included for faculty, staff, and students in education, but for commercial, WebEx meetings is an optional bolt-on. It also includes WebEx Teams. WebEx Teams is a soft phone. SMP services to design and deploy everything remotely. It includes our adoption team giving you end user training. And it includes managed services, including moves, adds, changes, deletes, remediation, monitoring, the works. So if you're looking to migrate to the cloud and your call manager is too complex and your server hardware is about ready to go, reach out to us. Let's talk about your environment. This includes licensing for users, so things like common area to phones and stuff like that are included in this specifically. But the starting price for K-12 is $25. That includes the calling and WebEx. For commercial, it's $27, which is calling only. And that is Flex 3.0. So we have an end-of-life announcement for Perpetual Call Manager, Emergency Responder, and Expressway SKUs. You have until January next year to purchase additional licenses, and then we can migrate to Flex 3. If you have SWSS, don't worry, you're going to get credit for it. If you don't have SWSS, it should really excite you because now you can move to the Flex at a really aggressive price. And we will work through with you to figure out what makes the most sense, named user or enterprise agreement for calling, as well as for meetings. And one other thing I didn't make mention of, if you buy the calling and the meetings, you do get a bundle. So not just the bundle SKU that we're talking about, but you also get additional discounting. So what I want you to think about right now is, where are you right now in your communication manager? How is it looking? Is your server about ready to go end of life? Are you ready to migrate to the cloud? The other thing that Flex allows you to do is roll out over time. So if you have a large install that we need to do and we need to roll it out, you don't have to pay for everything up front. We can build it up over time. So think about where you are in your cloud migration journey. If you want us to just quote you just calling only, the only thing we really need is a copy of your Prime License Manager, and we'll have a quick call and we can figure out that price for you. And that's Flex 3.0.